They don't fight anymore. That's the part nobody warns you about. Everyone braces for a marriage to end in war, to slam doors, raise voices. But most don't end in fire. They end in a frost. Same house, same bed, split the bills, coordinate the kids, say good morning and good night, and almost nothing in between that, which ultimately costs anything. Not enemies, not even angry, just roommates who used to be in love. Here's our promise for the next 90 minutes. If your marriage has gone quiet, not cruel, just quiet, you'll leave two things: a clear, honest name for what actually happened, and a simple, doable way to start bringing it back. No shame, no blame. Both sides accountable, both sides honored. Because nobody just grows apart, and a garden doesn't just die. It was built quietly by small neglects, which means it can be rebuilt the very same way. It's time to stop living as roommates and embrace the oneness God called all marriages to. My name is Dwayne Dwyer, and this is Reframing the Image of Relationships.
Drums in my cage, heat on the sunrise. We coming with order, cutting the old ties. Love need a frame up, truth in the lineup. If it was crooked, we straighten it right up. Sweet like the slow jam, rough like the walk off. Talk with your whole chest, no more pretending. If it is half love, we do not clap for it. Bring me the real thing, let it end quick. Step in the circle, face what you started. Name every pattern, break what was hardened. Hearts need a blueprint, words need alignment. Hands to the sky, now we ready for timing. Reframing the image of relationships. Say it. Reframing the image of relationships. We not playing no relationship. Yeah, we want it. Relationship. Yeah, no more sideways love. The Mindset Academy. Bring the light, bring the fire. The Mindset Academy. If you want soft talk, come with a clean heart. If you want real peace, do your part. No more mixed signals, no more two faces. We beat in a drum line till truth takes places. Wine to the rhythm, still keep it holy. Eyes on the vision, no more lonely. If you bring chaos, we call it out plainly. If you bring healing, we hold it down daily. Ours is a war chant for love out of order. We draw the line now, no stepping over. Chant in the midnight, in the daylight. If it is not right, we will rewrite. Reframing the image of relationships. Say it. Reframing the image of relationships. We not playing no relationship. Yahweh, we want it.
Good morning, and welcome to this month's episode of Reframing the Image of Relationship. My name is Dwayne Dwyer. I go by the Mindset Coach, and I am also joined by the one and only Miss Lisa Keys, the voice of reason. As I always start off this conversation, Lisa, it's been a month. How's everything going?
I'm excited to be here. Thankful. Don't take it for granted. I look forward to this conversation. Yeah. How about you?
All is well. All is well. I have no reason to complain because of by His grace, my eyes opened this morning, and you know what? There's a reason for that, and I'm excited. I mean, not just what we're talking about today, but all of the things that are happening moving forward. I'm excited for what's to come. Some things you guys know, some things you don't know. Some things I got to keep close hold, but they will be revealed in time. So I am well. Thank you for asking. And like you mentioned previously that you're excited for this conversation because you look forward to this conversation, and so do I. I'm looking forward to this conversation, but not so much as for the conversation that we're going to have, but for what everyone is going to gain from this conversation. So thank you for saying that. I want to first acknowledge, the awesome people that has joined us this morning. Whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on LinkedIn, whether you're on Instagram, YouTube, it doesn't really matter. You are a valued part of every conversation we have. So I want to make sure that I acknowledge you by name, because I don't think we do that too often. So if you're here, make sure that you get in the comment section and just say hi, whatever it is. That way we can acknowledge your presence. So that said, The rebirth of Nick D, good to see you and welcome. His divine appointment, good to see you and welcome. Am his chosen one, good to see you and welcome. Crystal Everett, good to see you and welcome. Robin Brower, good to see you. Terry, listen, I want to apologize to you first. And here's why I'm apologizing. I said it publicly, so I want to apologize publicly. I referred to you during a particular show as he, and I apologize. I didn't know. Now that I have a better understanding, I do apologize for that. But thank you for being here. And I mean, ever since she showed up, she's been such a wealth of value added. So thank you for being here today. Yes, it's Maya. Good to see you. No head snap, no finger popping this time. Good to see you, Maya. Welcome. And if anybody else out there, again, good to see you guys. Welcome. Just let us know that you're here. As we always say, hit that like button and share it with somebody who you think will find value in this conversation. And here's the best part about it. Um, I want you guys to share your thoughts, ask your questions in the comment section, because you guys are awesome. And again, I love your perspective. I love your questions. And again, you guys may have questions that we did not consider. And so we want to make sure that we bring them to the table and acknowledge them during the conversation. Did I miss somebody? Stuart Gorham, I'm sorry. Wherever you are, Stuart, good to see you and welcome. Um, Anything you want to kind of share, Lisa, before we get started?
I want to laugh at you because you said Maya, no head shaking, a finger popping, but you did it.
Listen, I'm still amped up off of the intro, right?
And it was fire. I was over here doing, yeah. I enjoyed
Listen,
it.
y'all don't know when the intro is playing. I'll be backstage just getting my little groove on. I don't see it. Um, yeah, yeah. I think it's good to love God and have fun at the same time. Sometimes we gotta. Yes, what you about to say?
You said that. That's good. To start with that, to love God and have fun, enjoy it. Because people don't think that they think that because you're in a relationship with God that you can't enjoy it and have fun and laugh. So I'm glad you said that.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. It's we got to learn to stop taking ourselves so seriously. Now, that's a whole nother conversation I can have though. Listen, if you have not purchased your copy yet, by all means, purchase your copy of Count Sheep, Losing Soul. And again, the QR code for the community support banner. Listen, we greatly appreciate you guys and all that you do to help us do the things that we do. So we thank you, and hopefully, you guys are seeing the manifestation of those things. So your gifts of love are always appreciated. Um, I think that's it. Anything else?
No, nothing I can
No.
think of right now.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna start off with random question,
Okay.
and I think everybody can relate to this question. If you can relate to this question, I want you to say either I have or never experienced that. One or the other. So I have experienced this or never experienced it. Have you ever been in a relationship? Um, and this kind of reminds me of something that was asked, man, probably about 2, 3 months ago. Have you ever been in a relationship and it just seems like it has lost its luster? It just seems like it's just two people existing in space, taking up space, occupying space. You don't even conversate with one another. You go to work, you come home, you may eat. You probably don't even eat at the same dinner table no more. You probably don't even sleep in the same bed. You're just cohabitating and existing in space. Have you ever experienced that?
Yes.
Yeah. Um,
I'm not even going to hesitate.
yeah.
I'm just waiting for you to finish. It was yes, 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 yes.
You was ready to jump in after the first three words. That I'm a moment of transparency. That literally described the last, I would say, year and a half of my marriage. Like
Two. Yeah, two
two,
for me.
two for you.
Mhm.
Yeah, literally for me the last, and the only reason I think it was a year and a half is because I was deployed prior to that. Um, and for those of you who did not know, I was in the army. And during that time frame, it was constant deployments. I was gone for a year, home for a year. Pretty much did that for like 7, 8 years straight. But it just got to the point after my last deployment to where there was nothing. We just existed. We just, we were business associates who had kids together. That's really what it seemed like. We talked about, things that we needed to talk about, but there was no depth, no breadth, no. know anything as it relates to that conversation. And it's funny because on the outside, no one would ever know that unless we told them that, right? But once we got home, it was like, okay, performance over. Go and take your costumes off and retire to your dressing rooms. And so, for those who thank you guys for your comments in the comment section too. Um, for those of you who have ever experienced that or know anyone who's experienced that, that's what today's conversation is about, right? What do we do? Good morning, Amar. Good to see you. What do we do in situations like that? So I want to start off with a poll, if we can. And the poll, kind of like, and as you guys answer the poll, I want you to kind of think about it. Like, think about it from the perspective of, especially all of you who say, I have that experience. Think about it from the perspective of, like, what did you do then? Right? We understand that you guys are, um, understand that you guys are, um, saved, sanctified, and full of the Holy Ghost right now. We got that part. But I want you to think about how did you behave in that moment. So that said, when the poll pops up, I want you guys to kind of answer the poll as it comes up. And the poll is getting ready. Thank you. So answer the question as then. Don't look at it, you know, who you are right now. You're great and wonderful self right now. We got it. You guys are amazing and awesome. But back then, how did you view this? Did you view it from the standpoint of wait on the feeling to return and act, or choose a small loving act, accept that you've grown apart, or stay polite and quiet? And the way to answer the poll is by just putting a number. Do not type it out. Just put the number. That way that the poll can capture it. Okay. Um, I want to start off with the first talking point, Lisa, and the first talking point is all about the frost is more dangerous than the fire, because I believe that couples are really most at risk. Um, when there isn't fighting, I think they're more at risk when quietness has set in, and polite just to keep the peace has set in. And I think sometimes what we end up doing is we end up mistaking the absence of conflict for the presence of connection. And I say that again. I think we mistakenly believe that the absence of conflict is the presence of connection. And that could be that, I mean, nothing could be further from the truth. And so Mother Teresa said years ago that the most terrible poverty is loneliness and the feeling of being unloved. Again, the most terrible poverty is loneliness and the feeling of being unloved. Now, that said, only 43% of married adults say they are very satisfied with how well they and their spouse communicate. And that came from from the Pew Research Center. So I guess my initial question is, when did we learn, or when did we last learn, or ever learn for that matter, um, to read a room that's simply gone silent? And where in our own homes have we mistaken a quiet house for a peaceful one?
I really do. I like the intro because it actually goes to some of the thoughts that I have for this question, right? So a quiet home is not the same as a peaceful home. Is the first thing that I wanted to say, right? We hear certain people say, and I'm not gonna say certain people, then I get follow up with it later. That I have it's peaceful in here. I have a peaceful home. All I want is peace and quiet, right? So you hear that often, right? But peace has a texture, if I can explain it like that, a texture. So is this ease when you come into the home? There's eye contact, there's laughter, and it's not forced. It's a good environment. Silence can carry the same texture, right? But it can sound like two people who have just simply just stopped trying. So when I think about the environment that you're walking into, right? And they can both look similar, but then it depends on the mindset of the people. The difference is that it's not volume. It's where the two people still are emotionally connected and they're present in the room. So that makes a difference. So when I think about when your question, when it asks about learning to read the room, when I thought about the room, I thought about your home, I thought about your mind. Is what I thought about when you come into the room. So the scriptures tell us that it treats the inner life as a household. So it's talking about building or neglect, right? But what's going on in a person's heart, their thought life shows up later. So it affects the climate and the environment of the home. And so those are some of the things when I begin to unpack this question, because this question was so layered that I had to make sure that I took the time to, you know, give it justice, because there is so much in here that, you know, as I begin to unpack it and think about, you know, some of the things, you know, when you asked in that opening question, you know, have any of you ever had this experience? And for me, I thought it was unfortunate to say yes for 2 years, because that's not a flex at all. It's you wasting 2 years because you did not have the tools or understand how to communicate in that environment. So in a healthy relationship, reading room looks like noticing the shift of the tone before it becomes a shutdown, before people shut down, right? Asking a direct question instead of just assuming, and treating your spouse silence as you have to treat the silence as information to investigate rather than its peace and its joy, because you don't know. And so those are some of the things that I thought about. I thought about, you know, a few scriptures came to mind, but I'm going to land right there. I'm going to stop and let you.
I need you to bring something back,
Okay.
because if somebody missed it, they missed it. You said peace has a texture. What do you mean when you say that? Because I think there's something in there that everyone needs to hear. What do you mean when you say peace has a texture?
So when okay, let's make it real simplistic. When you think about fabric, right? Let's think about silk fabric. Let's think about more of a coarse fabric, um, corduroy. So when you are entering an environment, it's going to be this smooth, inviting, pleasant environment to enter into, or it's going to be this coarse, stark environment that may have a little bit of stiffness to it because it's the feel how it feels in the environment. So when I think about texture, that's what it made me think about. One's inviting, one it can be seen as welcoming, but then there's this undercurrent. I'm coming in. I still there's something going on. It's not as as enjoyable as being in that environment that is peaceful, rather than coming into an environment, um, you know, I mean, was stressful. Not coming into a stressful environment.
See, I like that. I like that notion, because when you said that, I'm gonna tell you what I thought. Same, almost the same premise, but just like you look at any garment on the at a distant, it looks like a very smooth, texture. It looks very refined, and it's very appealing to the eye. But the closer you get, you realize there's a lot of interwoven and stuff like that. So it's a lot of things moving on the inside that makes up that. And I believe, I've said this for quite some time, and I'm gonna keep saying it, that I believe peace itself is an environment. And if you exist in that environment, then wherever you go, you come in peace. So now, through this concept, because peace is supposed to be taught to me, if I'm being honest, I say it again, peace is supposed to be taught to me. Peace is supposed to be taught to where I understand that peace is available for me. But what I believe, and I'm just going to, rip the band-aid off the scab real quick. I believe that we was taught hell. For the most part, I think a lot of us was taught hell. We was taught how to be hell. We was taught how to be in hell, one or the other. And so, in essence, the response to hell is survival. So, in essence, you were taught to survive, and then you try to put yourself in a situation to where, at the end of the day, when you look at it, that situation, just by its very nature, is supposed to be peace. So now those two can't coincide with one another. Let's think about it. Relationships itself are supposed to be peace, not saying that there is no conflict, right? I'm so glad y'all articulated what COB was, because I was sitting there like, what the devil is COB? I was in the Army for 24 years. That means close a business. Thank you. And and so when you look at the overall understanding of what relationship is supposed to be peaceful. Does not mean conflict won't exist in it, but understand how to maneuver in conflict is taught. So when we look at this notion of reading the room, well, how do I get to the point of reading the room? Well, reading the room is an aspect of emotional intelligence. So now I not only understand, I'm aware of the emotions I have, but I understand how to regulate my emotions, and I do not allow other people's emotions to control my outcome or the environment. So now when it comes down to existing in the space, I should automatically be able to sense when something is off in that room. But we've gotten to the point, because we were raised in hell, we were taught how to be hell itself on wheels, if I'm just being completely transparent. Y'all heard that. Now we've gotten to the point to where, and I'm telling you, it blows my mind. Some people, and I want you guys to, and if you know somebody like this, I want you to hit number 1 when I say it. Listen to me. I'm gonna say this. And if you know somebody like this, I want you to type the number 1. Some people are so resistant to peace that they will create drama, even though drama isn't present in that moment, because they're so good in the midst of drama. That part alone is frustrating. And here's the sad part about it. That within itself only reveals that internally there's conflict that I have yet to deal with, have yet to resolve. So I'm gonna stop there. I got a little long-winded. Anything you wanted to add in conjunction with that, Lisa?
Well, I heard we were taught. Do I have the volume up too loud? Let me see.
No, you good. I got mine.
Okay. We were taught drama, right? So it made me think about some of the things that I was taught. And this is an anecdotal experience, right? So it was being quiet, not saying anything. That's still not healthy, right? So it still is allowing things to compound because you're not addressing them. And so when I thought about, you were saying that we were taught, you said hell, right? Right. The two are not different, right? Because if you're being quiet, you're not addressing the things that are going on as well. You're just allowing them to happen, and in some way, making yourself a victim in some way, right? Those are things that I had to really unpack and understand. So I think there's multiple environments. The hell, even sometimes the silence, and other aspects as well, that people may have experienced because they carried over with them some of the things that they learned in their environment. So this made me think about that when you were sharing that. And the drama. Do I know someone who creates drama because they like drama? I think I know I've seen it, but presently in my life right now, no.
I get that. I get that. So yeah, and you know what? Because not just because of this conversation, because like for some people who don't know, I was actually going to end this show. Just being honest with you, and then it was told to me, please do not end that show, because that show is a show that we really need. And so, I sometimes sit down and I think about some of the things that people share with me, and some of the things that some of the feedback I get as it pertains to the different shows that we do. And so for those of you who were present for the relational intelligence webinar, that's why I'm wearing the shirt today. The relational intelligence webinar, there's going to be a part 2 in October. And if you were there for the relational intelligence webinar, I gave away some free stuff. I'm going to give away some more free stuff in October. So I'm putting it out early now. I have not created this. Just stay tuned. I will put the access and all that other good stuff out there, but I do want to say it right now, because that's part of the stuff that I have been working on that most people don't know. And I think that's the first time I ever said it. So that said, look, we got a question for you guys as well. I started doing this on Coach's Corner. I think this is great to do. Um, I want you to consider it right now, like your understanding of what marriage look like right now. When you picture your marriage, whether you are married or imagining yourself being married again, is it the way that you envision it? Is it fire or frost? And when was the last time, like the two of you, like if you're dating someone or you're married to that someone, when was the last time the two of you talked about anything that had like that actually cost you something? Um, and when I say that, I mean taking the risk for the sake of the relationship. Because you heard, I'm sorry, you on this side. I heard you heard Lisa say that, she was quiet from time to time. And I think I've seen somebody else say that in the comment section. Well, the reason why, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, Lisa. I think the reason why a lot of people choose quiet because at the end of the day, if I say something, it runs the risk of XYZ. So I don't want to get in an argument. I don't want to get in debate. I don't want to go back and forth about this, blah, yada, 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 whatever. Right. And so think about it. Like, when was the last time you took the risk and you had a conversation with someone and you knew that the waters were going to be a little bit, turbulent when this conversation hit the table? But for the sake of the relationship, you felt the need that I need to do this so the relationship can be better. It's a big difference. Not because I need to put you on the trial. If you're doing it because you're trying to put them on trial, you got hell in you. I'm just going to look. I'm just going to call a spade a spade. I love y'all though. I'm not trying to listen. No judgment. But I'm just if we don't identify the problem, then we can't come up with a solution. If I'm trying to put you on trial, then I got hell in me. It's just that simple. But if I'm doing it for the sake of the betterment of the relationship, that is totally different. So I want you guys to kind of look at that and just kind of think about it. When was the last time you had conversations like that to where, you took a risk for the sake of the improvement of the relationship? So thank you. First class citizen, good to see you. He says sometimes silence come when you don't feel heard. I agree with that. I agree with that. But then I also look at the inward part of that as well. How do I define feel heard? Right? Because I think there's an important thing to hear in that. If my definition of feeling heard means that you must do what I suggest, then I always question that one. But if that person respond to you, right? If they respond to exactly what you just said, I think that defines being heard. So I always go there because you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I always go there to kind of look at it from that lens as well. There were some other comments I highlighted earlier. I think maybe. Yeah, there we go. The rebirth of Nick D said, I did not mistake it for peace. I stayed quiet because that felt easier. I knew that was not the right answer, but I did not want to have the verbal conflict. And so that's the thing as well. You guys, listen, keep your comments coming. We greatly appreciate them. I'm going to bring them up. Okay, I think first class citizen responded. She said, my husband would get defensive when I brought it up how I feel. Yeah, that tends to happen a lot as well. Sorry to hear that. But I do appreciate you sharing that. Thank you so much. Um, so yeah, let's continue. Let's bring back up the poll if you don't mind, because I think we're pretty much done. Um, let's see. So out of our poll, we have 50% say they accept that you've grown apart. And then the next highest number was choose a small loving act. You guys were saints. I was not that. I'm just gonna be honest with you. At a certain point, man, I tapped out. And then we got a tie for wait on the feeling to return. I listen. I think that's not that everybody else's response isn't honest, but I really do believe a lot of people believe that's possible. And so if I just wait and hang in there long enough, we can get back to right. We can go back to where we came from. We can get things back on track. Man, I listen. I'm you know what I'm saying? And then number 4, stay polite and quiet. And I get that. So man, listen, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for participating in our poll. And we'll have another one coming up here pretty soon. Okay. So that takes us to talking point number 2. You didn't fall, you walked. I'll say it again. You didn't fall, you walked. We fall out of love is such a passive lie. And I'm sorry I have to say that directly. The notion of falling out of love is in essence a passive lie. And it literally lets everybody off the hook, if you will. Because I don't believe you fall out of love like you kind of like fall in a hole or whatever. I think you walk out of it. You skip conversations, and ultimately the connection that you once had starts to widen, and then you drift apart. But the drift, whether we want to admit it or not, is intentional. I say it again. The drift, whether we want to admit it or not, is intentional because the act that takes place is intentional. C.S. Lewis said, love, as distinct from being in love, is not a mere feeling. It's a deep unity maintained by the will and deliberately strengthened by habit. 55% of divorcing parents name growing apart as a major reason for the divorce. The single most cited reason. And that study came from BYU. So, question: if nobody just falls out of love, then every quiet marriage was walked into by two people. What are the small steps we take away from our spouses without ever calling them steps?
I think this is a very important question to really take our time to unpack because, like you said 55%. Not just that study, but you hear this all the time that we fell out of love or we grew apart. Another one. And so as I begin to just unpack this and think about it, right, it made me think about. Well, I'll get to that, but I want to share a few things that happens. Right, you withhold gratitude. So these are some steps or things that are happening in the fabric of your relationship. Right, noticing what a spouse does and simply not saying it out loud anymore. You used to, but you stop doing it. You stop noticing. You stop appreciating, right? Keeping it internal scoreboard, right? Tracking what they did wrong, um, and without even naming it. Just why did they? Why do you think they did something wrong? And you're just keeping the scoreboard, and you're not checking you, right? But you're noticing what they did and not what you did, right? Choosing screen time and task and in other relationships to default to unwind and replace that time with your spouse. um, Letting sarcasm and flatness replace tenderness, and then just regular ordinary conversations. Praying alone versus praying together. um, Taking a hurt or maybe a win or a worry to someone else outside of your partner, your parents, your friends, taking it to them versus sitting down and having a conversation because it's easier. Um, Editing and examining yourself um, is one of the most important things. So when I begin to think about this, right, I had to I had to look at it from the doctrinal side as well, right? What the scriptures say. So, I mean, the Bible doesn't describe love as dying of natural causes, right? As we say, but it describes it as something that's unattended or actively spoiled. So it took me to the Songs of Solomon, when it takes us to the foxes, the little foxes. It talks about the little foxes that spoil the vine, and those vines are tender grapes. They're vibrant and they're edible and they're good to taste, right? But when I thought about the little foxes, this is the thing that I think that really stood out to me, right? Little foxes go and slowly bite away at the vine. It looks healthy, it looks edible, but they slowly bite at it and then it's destroyed. And it's not something that we can say happens suddenly, but over time, it slowly begins to deteriorate. because we stop doing these things and we begin to think of each other, as you mentioned early on in the conversation, as roommates. And so I'll land there. I'll stop there.
No, that was good. Um, I think all of those things are important. I think the little things that we do become, they tend to stack over time. When you was growing up, you'll come around the corner if you woke up in the morning and go in the kitchen and get you something to drink or something like that, and your parent, your mama, your dad is in the kitchen cooking or whatever. And when you get about your teenage years, you start smelling yourself a little bit. You know what I'm talking about. So you're in your own little world,
Mm-hmm.
and you walk around there and you ain't say nothing. And they say, "Good morning to you too. You ain't sleep. I ain't sleep with you last night." Stuff like that. And I don't know about y'all. That's how direct it came to me. I didn't have the sugar and spice and everything. Nice parent. Um, I think that's important to understand, because those little things become ankle biters. But I'm gonna name the thing that we don't think is a thing until it becomes the thing. Your job is not more important than your spouse. Let me say it again for somebody in the back, because here's the problem that we have. See, we're so busy trying to climb the corporate ladder that we forgot that God called us to be one. And you've, in essence, divorced your spouse, married your job, and actually live with your spouse. Now, I know somebody heard that and said, well, I don't necessarily agree. I get it. I'm that person. I don't say things for people to agree with. I say it for you to consider. And if you have the capacity to consider something outside of what you're currently thinking, then I really do believe that that's where awareness exists. That's awareness exists outside of what you currently know, right? Because here's the thing: if what we knew was right, then our numbers wouldn't be so bad. I want to start there. If what we knew was right, our numbers wouldn't be so bad. See, you'll come home and say, "Well, I was talking to my mama, and she said," that's what Because when we as men, we get hurt, especially if we're raised by our mothers alone. Then when we need somebody to go talk to, then we'll go and sit down and talk to mama, and mama gonna tell us, her thoughts, her advice, so forth and so on. And we come back, and sometimes we try to hold on to it until it just gets okay. And then next thing you know what? I was talking to my mom. My mama said I ain't wrong. Mm. Now going back to what Lisa said, we keep a score. That's one demerit. You bring your mama up in our conversation. You bring your mama into our relationship. Oh, I got another one for you. We go into church. We come home and we're trying to live church, not scripture, because that's what people do. We're trying to live church, not scripture, in home. And then next thing you know, well, you say, well, pastor said, or he didn't go to church. You come home, you say, well, pastor was preaching today, and pastor said, real talk, real talk. You come here and tell me what pastor said one more time. I'm just saying. See, these are the things that tend to stack up, and it's not just women; it's men. It's both of it. Everybody does it. We can believe that we don't, but you have become so competitive with your spouse that you forgot that in the relationship, competition don't exist. Collaboration is the thing that exists. And when we are collaborating, we become advocates for one another. So even in the midst of our disagreement, if my parent sense something is wrong, I'm standing in defense. I'm not supporting your negative interpretation of what we're actually working through right now. Hold on, stop. Let's pause this right here. Mama, daddy, I can appreciate you wanting to have an opinion. I didn't ask for it. I didn't ask for it. So I think all of this becomes important, because when we really stop and think into it, these things here, these are small steps, because we've gotten so busy sitting right next to one another. Why? Why is this so important? What is going on this thing that detracts away from your spouse. Take this thing, put it on do not disturb, put it face down so you can't see when somebody calling you. Because here's the truth. If it's an emergency, either they're gonna call back, they're gonna send a carrier pigeon, they're gonna do something. You know what I'm saying? So I think all of this becomes important. Make the time that you guys spend together sacred. Sacred to such a degree that it takes an emergency for somebody to penetrate it. If you heard what I just said, that actually really should have just sunk in and dug deep. Make the time that you spend together so sacred that it takes an emergency to penetrate it. My homeboy shouldn't be able to call me and say, hey, I got a flat man. Look, dog, let me tell you something. Did you call AAA? Did you call AAA first? I'm not shooting down the need to help, but what have you done to help yourself first? I should not be your first. I should not be your first option. You should have layers of defense. When you guys hear me talk about boundaries, you hear me talk about defense in depth. You should have layers of defense and protection for yourself. When you exhaust all those means, then I become an option. So now I know that when you call me, you didn't have a choice but to call me. And she gonna understand that, look, I gotta go. I'll be right back. Or you can go with me, your call. But I don't think you want to go and help me change the tire. Just saying. And I'm just using that as an example. So what am I saying? I'm saying that some of these small steps, these little small ankle biters that are really tearing away a relationship are these so-called friends that you have that know that you're spending time with your significant other, your husband, your wife, whatever the case may be, and they're texting and calling after you say, oh, well, I got company. Why are you still texting and calling me then? Hey, man, didn't I just say, oh, girl over here right now? You know, that's how fellas talk. She, old girl, my old lady, whatever. Didn't I say she over here right now? All right, dog, I'm going to have to holler at you later. It's that simple. I don't talk about the game that come on tonight while I'm, we don't do that. We don't protect that time. Therefore, everybody feels that they have a right to it. I'm going to pause right there because I didn't talk too much, Lisa. What are your thoughts?
It was just so much, right? I think that, that's important. Like the last statement you made, I think that was very important, right? To identify what is important in that moment. And I think it shows your significant other that, I'm not putting anyone before you. I am mindful of the relationship and the importance of spending time together. And, and then it also teaches your friends, like I remember something you said, it's been a while, that your friends are the ones supposed to be helping strengthen your relationship, not helping you tear away from it. So, and then sometimes you have to be mindful because those people who are making those emergency calls may be jealous. I don't know. There's an aspect of that we have to be mindful of, but how they're feeling has nothing to do with the boundaries that I'm putting in place for this relationship. So they can feel or do or try to manipulate or deceive all they want. The most important thing is the boundaries that are put in place for the relationship that you are establishing or have established. So that's what it just made me think about.
Yeah, I will say it again because you better haven't said it in a while. So I will speak from the lens of marriage.
Mhm.
And when I talk marriage, listen, I am not talking about the state contract. If you heard what I said and you know what I mean, you know what I mean. I'm not referencing the state contract. Okay.
Mhm.
Marriage should be so sacred that the only people who have access to the people in the marriage are pillars of the marriage. What do pillars do? They support. So now you have this as a unit, and then I have the family, my mother, my father, her mother, my father. My father and her father are my advisors. Her mother and my mother are her advisors. Then the only other people, period. I don't care who we talking about. You can be talking siblings, you can be talking aunties, you can be talking cousins, you can be talking in-laws, you can be talking outlaws. I don't care. Only other people that get access to the marriage are people who are in support of the marriage. So if Auntie Shirley don't like Tyrone, then Auntie Shirley don't get access to the marriage. I'm sorry. Auntie Shirley is a Cancer. And the more you talk to Auntie Shirley is planting seed in you. And eventually, the more you talk to her, the more Auntie Shirley is going to be responsible for. She is going to be a factor in tearing you guys apart. Same thing applies to friends. Friends should be in support of the marriage. See, we like to believe, well, if I'm married, I can only have married friends. Wrong. That is a wrong assertion. You should only have friends, married or single, that support the marriage, which means that if we need, they show up. I say again, if we need, they show up. That is all. So I think too many times we have these unhealthy relationships with bad attachments, right? They were friend-ish. They weren't really friends. They were friend-ish when it suited them, when it worked for them, so forth and so on. So now you've gotten married. They ain't really in support of your relationship. They showed up to the wedding because they got to put on a nice dress or they got to put on a nice suit, whatever the case may be. But then when something goes wrong, I told you he wasn't no good. I told you shouldn't marry that girl to start off with, bro. That person was never in support of the marriage. So that's what I mean when I say that. Every person that you have surrounding your marriage should be a pillar. If any person that I called a friend was actually happy that me and my wife got a divorce, we are no longer friends. I'll say it again. Any friend that I had that I called a friend that actually was happy that me and my wife divorced, we're no longer friends because they were never they were never for me to begin with. They were for the version of me that they had in their mind, and the version of me that they had in their mind may not have included her. But that's I done got on my soapbox as it pertains to that. Listen, greatly appreciate that. Greatly appreciate all of your comments, man. Just keep them coming. Just keep them coming. We're gonna bring up some more here in a second, but first, I do want to give you guys your question because again, I think your question is good. I want you to look back over the last year. Name one conversation. That's all. Just one. Name one conversation you kept meaning to have with your spouse, your significant other, whatever the case may be, and you kept quietly skipping it. What made it easier to walk past than to walk towards? I ask again. What made it easier to walk past as opposed to walking towards? If you are so inclined, you can put in the comment section, but you don't necessarily have to. Understand that these are very personal in nature, and they should be, because that's when we get to analyze certain things. Anything else before we go to question number 3, Lisa? All right, very good. That takes us to talking point number 3. I'm sorry. Beware of the little foxes. Thank you, Lisa. Beware of the little foxes. It's rarely the wolf. You know what I mean when I say the wolf? You know, the affair, the addiction, the blow up that kills a marriage. It's the little foxes nobody chased out. Distractions, busyness, unforgiveness, silence, work, cell phone, all that other stuff you just got finished hearing. And those things are nibbling the roots while the couple watches the horizon for something dramatic to happen. See, Benjamin Franklin said it. No, Benjamin Franklin on a relationship podcast. That's okay. Benjamin Franklin said a small leak will sink a great ship. And that said, 51% of partnered adults say their partner is at least sometimes distracted by their cell phone when they're trying to have a conversation. 16% say they do it often. Lisa, my question is, we're all watching the horizon for the wolf, the big betrayal. But which little fox do we most excuse in ourselves because it looks too small to matter?
I love how this question it's almost cinematic, the question. But I think it has to go back. I want to just really double back to my thought when I first read the question. I thought about forethought. I thought about intent. I thought about negative thoughts about your spouse, the 4 horsemen that we talked about sometimes. To unpack them, understand them, and to renew them were some of my thoughts, right? And then took me back to the little foxes, right? The little foxes that spoil the vine, for the vines have tender grapes, right? And so when you think about these foxes, the description of foxes in this aspect is little, small, cunning, low to the ground animals. That's what the little foxes are, right? And and the wolf or the lion. So the little foxes don't attack the vine outright. And I know I stated this earlier, but I wanted to restate it because it just continues to stay in my mind, the thoughts about it, right? Um, they gnaw at the root system unnoticed until the vine that looks healthy begins to collapse. And so it still took me back. Like, to me, these two questions connected to me. Explanation for talking point 2 and 3. And so as I begin to think about them, those are the things that came to mind for me. Um, the not noticing, um, all those things that I mentioned earlier, right? Those are the things that came to mind to me. So I'll stop there for now.
No, you're good. I'm gonna need you to lean just a little bit so you ain't hiding behind the pole as we put it. No, the other way. As you ain't hiding behind the pole. Well, I'm sorry, it might be the other way for them. I can't tell. Um, but listen, I want you guys to answer this because I think it's important. I think it's and the importance of this question is I'm talking about myself. I say it again. The importance of this question is we're talking about ourselves, not someone else. So the question, and I'm making reference to our question, right? Our question. Um, I think for me, it was the job. I'm not gonna lie. Like I said before, I was in the army. Be all you can be. She was a civilian. So at the end of the day, I was that person. I would go to work because I had to get my gym time in. Right. So I did my gym time before my platoon sergeant meeting. I went to the gym, I worked out, went to and the gym opened at 5 o'clock. So I had to leave my house 4:30 in the morning to be to the gym when it opened up. I opened the doors of the gym, not that I was jokingly. I didn't physically open it. But when the door opened, I was in it. Did my workout, went to my meeting. We did PT. I went back to the gym, get me about a 20, 30-minute workout in, then showered, then, worked the whole day, and then probably get off someplace between, for y'all civilian folks, I'm gonna say 5 to 7 p.m. For y'all prior service military folks or current military folks, that's 1700, right, to 1900, right? Someplace in there. But think about it. On the days that I got off at 7 p.m. or 1900, I go home. My kids were getting ready for bed at 7:30. So I made it home just in time to kind of like, see them off the bed, things of that nature. Miss the entire afternoon, day, so forth and so on. And then by that time, I'm pretty exhausted. Mind you, I went to the gym twice already. I worked all day. Oh yeah, did PT. So by the time I'm getting home, I'm pretty tired. I go take a shower and I eat whatever's in the microwave because that's where my food be at because I don't expect them to wait on me. So I eat whatever's in the microwave. And then by that time, I'm 30 minutes. That's all it's gonna be. I'm out. 30 minutes, busting nose. So I think for me, it was always the job because I had it, and I'm just and I want you guys to catch what I'm saying. I had it backwards in my mind. See, to me, I worked to take care of my family. I say it again. I worked to take care of my family. And that's a true statement. I don't care who you are. If you believe that, that is ultimately a fact. But what happens when that fact is not true? I say it again. What happens when that fact is not true? Because here's the other side of it. Is taking care of my family limited and only the monetary value that they get from the job that I actually have? And oh yeah, by the way, if you're on salary, you ain't making no more extra money for being there longer, then why are you doing so? This guy. I'm talking about me. Do all little foxes do this destructive behavior out of jealousy, or is there other reasons? I don't think it's a jealousy thing. So first and foremost, thank you because I think you're joining from Australia. So thank you for joining us. I don't believe it's a jealousy thing. I think it's more of either it's a habit initially that you've already had, or it's one that you acquired to where it became a habit. Um, so I don't, but I'm not against thinking about the jealousy aspect of it because here's the thing that I noticed that was true for me when I got really good at playing army. I'm just gonna call it what it is. because it's all about learning how to play the game, y'all. When I got really good at playing army, then she got really good at playing school teacher. And I can't fault her for that because I did it. But then at a later point in time when I realized it, it was like, got it. I'm doing this wrong. I need to turn it around, right? And then be like, hey, this is what we need to look at. But by that time, she was already experiencing the fruits of getting really good at playing teacher, right? So it's just kind of like one of those things. We kind of grew apart. But I really do love that question. At least I really want you to respond to this question as well. Do all little foxes do this destructive behavior out of jealousy, or is there other reasons?
Well, I can certainly say there's other reasons. But I think that the important thing is not to focus on the fox, but right, be aware of the environment that you're in. And then when something comes up that is in your environment that you know may not be healthy, to address it. A lot of times we don't do that. And it's important that when that happens, when you see the fox coming in, you make sure you kick him out because you don't want to. I think a lot of times we're focusing on the other person, and this is where humility has to come in the relationship. We have to focus on making sure that we are secure in our environment and making sure it's a healthy, peaceful environment for everyone in the environment. So then the job, the steps are to how do I do that? Who, if I don't know how to, who can help me get an understanding on how to make sure that this environment is conducive for everyone who's in it. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, and I think so. If you bring up his second comment, I think this kind of ties into this one. He said, in Australia, we have a thing called the tall poppy syndrome, where people will discourage your success. If that's my spouse, I got an issue. You see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I listen. My spouse should be an encourager of my success. I should be an encourager of her success. That's if that's what we're talking about. There's a whole nother conversation that needs to be had. But then that also goes with the pillars in support of that relationship as well. Those pillars should be in support of our success. So man, that is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Because absolutely right. You will learn a lot from people who literally want to discourage your success, make you feel bad for succeeding because they kind of sometimes feel like you're leaving them behind or they think your relationship is going to change or you're going to receive, find some new friends or whatever that look like. So very interesting comment, and thank you for that. Um, yeah, let's look at what we got going on here in the poll because I think what you'll find is a lot of it is busyness. See, we've confused busyness with business. Just change one letter. Change the Y to the I. And if we think that business equates to busyness, so we get really busy doing a thing because we think we got some business that we're doing. And it doesn't really matter. Either I create something, I get so busy in doing it, so it takes me away from my family, right? I find a job and I get so focused, hyper focused in doing that really well, and it takes me away from my family. Or I go commit myself to an establishment, church, whatever, and I get really busy at doing it, and it takes me away from my family. It doesn't change. Busyness, I think, is one of the biggest ones. But I do appreciate the silence, right? Because every opportunity to communicate that we do not take the opportunity to communicate is a lost opportunity. Not saying that the opportunity won't come back, but it's a lost opportunity to have a healthy, cohesive, and collaborative communication. So thank you guys for answering that poll. And thank you, Lisa, for your answer to that question. And I got a question for you guys. Did I ask that question yet? No. Your question is if you had to name the one little fox that has been quietly nibbling at you, no, we already did that. That's your poll. Let's move on to number 4. Yeah, move on to number 4. Love is a verb you choose. Can y'all hear me back there? Y'all hear me back there? Well, what about you? You hear me back there? Love is a verb you choose. I say it again. Love is a verb. I need to say it one more time? Love is a verb you choose. Right? Okay. Love in scripture is not a feeling that leaves, but a set of actions you choose. It is ultimately a connection is ultimately rebuilt in the small daily moments, if you will. So whether you're either turning toward your spouse, that should be the viable option. But if you don't turn toward them, the only other option is to turn away from them. There is no middle ground. Let me say it again. There is no middle ground. We think we're choosing a middle ground. You're not choosing a middle ground. If you're not turning towards, you're turning away. That is all. And John Gottman calls it the bid. And he said the bid, any small act to get attention, care, or connection from another person. Now, I do want to comment on that in just a second. It, in essence, is the fundamental unit of emotional communication. Now, let's talk about any small act to get attention, care, or connection from another person. I am not talking about to appease your insecurities. Let me explain something to you. If you have insecurities within you, it is important for you to work that out before you infect somebody else. I'm going to say it again. If you have insecurities, it is important for you to work that out before you infect somebody else. Do not look at any small act to get attention, care, or connection from another person as appeasing your insecurity. That's not what this is. This is all about the connection of the relationship, not the satisfaction of you. Okay. In a 6-year study of newlyweds, couples who stayed married turned toward their partner's bid for connection 86% of the time, while couples who divorced turned toward them only 33% of the time. So, Lisa, my question here, if love is proven by tiny bids, where are we most likely to turn away from our spouse without ever noticing we did?
This one really caused me to dig deep because I wanted to understand what bids mean. And thank you so much for that. Help me understand it. Um, and so I thought about attention again. In essence, being present in a moment. Like you use the example of the phone, right? What is so important on this phone that we are throwing away the time and opportunity we have together? What is so important about it? And it makes you think about even I thought about even the little disagreements or fights that that I had when I was married. And then the times, even the hour or 2 hours of not speaking, wasted time because we couldn't come together to have a conversation, right? And and I thank God for helping me understand it now, but boy, I wish I had have known it before. I wish I had have known it. I wish I had known the the things that affect the relationship, or the lack of support. And I think a lot of times we just take that relationship for granted. And the relationship is a gift from God. It's not something that I heard people say, deserve. I deserve this. No, it's not. It is a gift from God. Our children are a gift from God. Our 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 jobs are gifts so that we can help in the kingdom. And our children are gifts that we are raising up so that we can send them out so they can go and they can begin to learn and how to be in relationship with God. So I think a lot of times when we just take each other for granted, there's no breakdown of communication. Like you said, there's distraction. Those are the things that we have to name out loud. I mean, I think I can appreciate, and I know this may seem difficult or may seem difficult to someone. I can appreciate if my mate came to me and said, listen, I seen this woman, I'm noticing her. I think I can sit there and have a conversation with you because you're understanding it. And now we're accountable to each other. But why is this going on? Let's have a conversation. That may not be easy to hear. And may not, it won't, I mean, many people won't say it. They'll just try to deal with it. But let's talk about it. If you really want to have a successful relationship and deal with the things that are going on, I think that is so important that we have to begin to look at it in that way. We are accountability partners. We're one flesh. We are taking this journey together. And why not? I think sometimes those things are not said out of a fear of retribution. So they won't say it. But we have to get to a place where we are protecting our relationship by all means, and that includes that boundary that we set for each other. We have this conversation. If anything like that goes on, you promise we're gonna come back together and we're gonna talk about it. So that's my thought. I'll land with.
Yeah, I love that response. I think it's important before we start, and again, this is anybody, and before we start looking at tiny bids, we clearly understand what love is. It ain't the languages that book talk about. So what we have to do is root that stuff, get that stuff out of us. Because what we end up doing is use things like that book to manipulate other people to do what we want them to do. That's not what it is. Okay. Love is not about how I feel. The moment I understand that, then I'm no longer controlling this relationship according to how I feel. Love, again, is a decision that we make, and then the behavior follows the decision. The feelings catch up. I say it again. It is the decision that we make. The behavior follows the decision. The feelings catch up. So, in response to this question, I like to think about the crucifixion of Christ.
Mhm.
I want you to imagine the disciples after he was crucified. What did they do? They went back to work. They went back to doing the thing that they knew how to do, because I think that ultimately becomes the answer to this question. Where are we most likely to turn away from our spouse without ever noticing it? By doing the thing that we know to do. What were you always doing prior to? So if I was surfing the internet, I'm surfing the internet. If I was on the phone running my mouth, I'm on the phone running my mouth. If I'm watching TV, I'm watching TV. And ultimately, that learned practice behavior that I have been doing for 17 some odd years becomes the thing that actually encroaches in this relationship and then becomes to infect it slowly but surely. It's almost like a tiny cancer, and it slowly gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger over the course of time. Then ultimately she said, all you do is sit down and watch TV. What you want me to do? How about not watch TV all the time and get up and go talk to her for a second? You know what I'm saying? It don't hurt. I promise. Go do something. You know what I'm saying? Go back and look at the things you used to do. Let me say, go look at the things you used to do together. And then I'm sorry.
Despise not the days of small beginnings. This is what this when you said that.
Right. Look at the things you used to do together. We're all a spark. And I'm not saying do exactly those things because you're not the same people. But sit down and have a conversation. I wish my couple was with us today, because that's one of the conversations we had. Right? What are some of the things you used to do? Let's do a brainstorming. I'm gonna give this to y'all. Let's do a brainstorming activity. You tell me what you want to do. I tell you what I want to do. Neither one of us can reject anything that we say. But prior to the brainstorm, we come up with the criteria for selection. Now, what is the criteria of selection? We decide together and we determine what that criteria looks like. So one of them might be safety. One of them might be like, if you got kids, they have to include the kids. One of them might be it has to take place on the weekend, whatever. Okay, cool, got it. So now we have our criteria for selection. So you come up with your 10, I come up with my 10, and all 20 of them hit the board. Then we use the criteria for selection to go through them. And then we only keep the one that we both agree to. Man, let me tell you something. I did not know they did a wine sipping not competition, but they do wine sipping on the train. I ain't never heard of that. I heard of going to like wine sip tasting test and thing. Yeah, they do it on the train. I learned that from my couple. I was like, man, that's pretty cool. I want to know about it. Not that I'm going to go ride the train just to sip the wine, but here's the funny part. This is the beauty of watch. I want you to understand something. And it was so funny when they said it. He don't really like wine like that, but he want to ride the train. She likes wine. So they agreed to do it. And he said, she gonna drink up all the wine. I just want to ride the train. And it was so funny when he said it, because what most people don't realize is that that was the perfect example of two people coming together. It wasn't a perfect venue, but the venue worked for them. And so now they're looking at doing that thing together. Listen, I was like, listen, kudos, congratulations, because I think that's available. We just have to be reconditioned, reminded that it's available. But in order for me to recognize that it's available, I need to see the little thing that I do that is slowly pulling me away from you. So that's my thoughts there. Your thoughts, your comments in response.
No, I mean, I want to add anything else you said. I think everything you said was great. Yeah, I wouldn't add anything else to it because it's so important that we are present in our environment. Not allow the thoughts of work to distract me. Not allow the thoughts of what's going on with my brother, sister, cousin, uncle. Not allow those things to distract us from. Not saying that we're just going to totally ignore them, but there's a time for everything. That's what the Word of God says. It even said there's a time. It says it's time to love. There's a time to hate. There's a time. So there's a time for everything. So I think that if we're mindful of this time that we're having here, we're intentional about this time, we're going to protect this time, and we're going to make sure that anyone who's in our relationship understands that this time is sacred. So that's the only thing I would add.
Yep, I greatly appreciate that. And it has to be. You have to view your relationship as sacred ground. I say, man, I can't stress that piece enough. If you're not viewing your marriage as sacred ground, then I don't understand what you got married for. It has to be seen that way. So anyway, your question. I want you to think of the last small bid your spouse made for your attention today. Whether it was just coming around the corner to see what you were doing, sitting down beside you. Fellas, if she wants to sit down and watch the football game with you, let her. If she has a question about the football game, it's okay. I get it. I get it. Fellas don't want y'all to like coming with 50, 50, 11 questions during the first quarter. Like I can't even watch the game. Listen, I get it. You got to get over that. She wants to learn. That's why. And it's not so much as that she wants to learn the game. I think it's more so that she wants to learn you. Right? Why do you like this game so much? And so since you like this game, I want to be able to watch the game with you. Make that small investment up front. Let me say it again. Make that small investment up front, which you'll find next year, the year after that, so forth and so on. Y'all sitting down watching the game together. She is telling you about the game. She is telling you about some of your favorite players. Don't get him. Listen, don't get jealous of that. That's good. That's good. Listen, that's good business right there, bruh. If she like the game, listen, if we can watch the Georgia Bulldogs, come on, man. If we can watch the Bulldogs together, high five, 2 thumbs up. So anyway, that's all I'm saying. You have to be able to find that. So I want you guys to kind of look at it. Think of the last small bid your spouse made for your attention today. Did you turn toward it or turn away? What would turning toward it have cost you? Right. So think in that regard. Okay. That takes us to talking point number 5. Dry is not dead. I say again, dry is not dead. Renewal starts small. See, if the distance was built by small choices, wouldn't it make sense that the same small choices, reformatted, of course, can create closeness? Well, if we can all agree that that part is true, then I guess we need to stop waiting for the feeling to return before we act. Do the small thing first. Tend to the garden and let that feeling follow with faithfulness. See, Timothy Keller said in The Meaning of Marriage, to be loved but not known is comforting but superficial. To be known and not loved is our greatest fear. But to be fully known and truly loved is a lot like being loved by God. See, statistically speaking, 2/3 of unhappily married adults who chose not to divorce reported that their marriages were happy roughly 5 years later. Just let that sit. What if we pull the trigger for those of us who are divorced? What if we pulled the trigger too soon? What if we stopped digging right before we hit the gold mine? So I got a question for you, Lisa. And the question is, if faithfulness comes before the feeling, I say it again. If faithfulness comes before the feeling, if we act our way back into love rather than wait to feel our way there, what's the one small rhythm we tell a dry couple to start this week?
Wow, this one was really layered. So I think understanding faithfulness is important, right? Faithfulness is the sustained decision to stay firm to covenant regardless of what a person feels on a given day, right? Faithlessness is the erosion of that decision. So you're deciding I'm not going to do this, and you're going to allow it, like you said, before you even get a chance to bring life back into that tree, and bring it back to life so it won't dry up. Put the water on it, put it in front of the sun, to allow it to get the nourishment that it needs. You give up, right? But feelings are real, and we have to honor them, right? But scripture never asks anyone to pretend they don't feel. It never asks us to pretend we don't feel, right? But feelings are by nature fleeting. They respond to circumstances like our hormones, for instance, lack of sleep, stress, seasons, things that are going on in your life. So it's important that we understand the commitment in being in a relationship, being in a marriage. So when I thought about acting, right, to me, when I thought about acting, and I could be wrong, so help me, but when I thought about acting, I thought it was something that was unauthentic, right? So if I'm acting, if I'm putting on, and I'm not deciding to be in this relationship. I know there's a scripture and I can't think of it now. I know it's in Proverbs or Psalm, but it talks about feeling deeply. I mean, being in there, making sure that you're a part of the problem, deciding to fight for this covenant, and humble yourself in the midst of it, whatever is going on. I mean, I think it's so important now that I know much better than I did before. I think the covenant marriage is so important because we're coming together to prove God's will. That's what we're coming together for, that purpose. And it's not just about us. It's not about the wedding, but it's about learning as we are inside of this relationship. I know Coach always says that the relationship is the training ground. There's so much that we're going to be learning. And so when I think about the importance of us coming together and feeling and being present and finding each other trustworthy because of his presence on the inside of us, not that there's any good in us, but because he abides in us and because we want him to be pleased with us. So, this is was so layered, but I think that if I had to give any advice to any couple, before, today, is I would say, take your time, like the bits. Notice the bits. Like if someone comes, your spouse comes and say, "Well, what do you think about the weather?" I think that's them trying to have a conversation and sit down and maybe not knowing how to address the conversation, or trying to share something with you about maybe something that happened at work. Those are moments that you can't just ignore. You have to take your time. You have to sit down and you have to listen. Take your time. Sit down. Be present. Look at them. See them. Don't let anything else distract you. Turn off the TV. Turn off the phone. Don't let and stop and be present. Look at them. And you guys know, and within both of you guys are one. You're one flesh. So something is going on with you because you both are feeling it. Address it. Don't ignore it. That's what I would say. Let that rhythm be every morning where you're waking up and you're looking at each other and you take a few minutes and you smile, you pray with each other, and you go up throughout your day and you think good thoughts. Think on these things, and be excited about the possibility of coming home and having that and creating that environment that is going to be conducive for both of you guys to grow together. So I'll land there.
Yeah, I like that, and I want to kind of, because you made mention of the word act, and I'm glad you did. Um, I want us to look at it from, because I think every piece of information that exists out there tells you to do the things that you like to do the things that you love, do the things that bring you joy. And unfortunately, that information has permeated the space of relationship. But there's a difference, even though I think that piece of information is bad information as well. But that's a whole nother conversation. See, in this thing called relationship, there's this thing that kind of sits at the foundation. And that foundational aspect of relationship is called commitment. I say it again, commitment. It doesn't matter how I feel if I made a commitment to a thing. The only thing that matters is the commitment that I made to the thing. Eventually, if I continue to perform, if I continue to do the things I'm committed to, then what ends up happening is that I actually fall in love with the thing that I'm committed to. It is a process. It doesn't fail. The only thing that fails are the people who put themselves in the process, because a lot of times we put ourselves in the process for the wrong reason. So I have to be committed. That's the only reason why faithfulness works. Let me say it again. That's the only reason why faithfulness works. See, the thing that I'm committed to, I'm gonna need you to put your hands in your lap, ma'am. The thing that I'm committed to, right? The thing that I'm committed to is the thing that I'm working on, but I'm working on the thing for in the direction of a hopeful future. Faithfulness, faith forward, full of it means I'm doing the thing in belief that the future thing is going to come to pass. So if faithfulness comes before the feeling, then eventually the feeling will catch up. I can't listen. You can look back over your life and you have relevant examples to where it actually worked. A lot of us who were in the army, we didn't really join the army because we liked the army. A lot of us joined the army because we needed to join the army. And then in the beginning, I didn't like basic training. I didn't like some of the things I had to do. I didn't like waking up at dark 30 in the morning and being at work at 6:30 in the morning, and running down the street and singing and all. Man, I'm tired, boss. I'm a young adult. But then eventually I got to the point, because I was committed to it. I signed a contract. I was committed to it. Eventually I got to the point that I actually loved what I did. And at that moment when I loved what I did, I actually served the people who actually worked for me better, because it wasn't a thing that I had. I didn't view it as a thing that I had to do. I view it as a thing that I enjoyed doing. Not the job, but the people that I was helping. So if we act our way back into it rather than waiting to feel it, then ultimately we're putting the wagon before the horse, because I'm thinking the feeling is going to pull me back in. That's not the purpose of feelings. That's a whole nother conversation, but the feelings aren't supposed to pull you into the thing. I'm not going to tell you what feelings are supposed to do. I tell you, that's a whole nother conversation that we can have, because we're gonna talk about that in detail. The feelings aren't supposed to pull me into the thing. The feelings are supposed to sustain me in the thing. So now when I look at it, that one small rhythm might be intentional conversation. I'm going to sit down, and maybe it's not something that maybe you guys are like me. Maybe you spend so much time at work that you came home and you forgot how to be with her. You forgot how to be with him. You know what? I'm getting off work early today. I'm going to come home. I'm going to wait on her to come home. I'm going to wait on him to come home. I'm going to even order dinner. That way she ain't got to cook nothing, or whatever the case may be. And we're going to sit down and we just going to talk. That's it. We can talk about something important or absolutely nothing at all. But get to the point that we learn how to communicate again. The most simplest act that two red-blooded adults can actually do, it becomes the thing that we elect not to do when our feelings get in between us. Let me say it again. When our feelings get in between us. See, our feelings are not supposed to be in between us. Our feelings are supposed to incorporate us together. That's the whole notion of oneness. Because my mess is her mess, and her mess becomes my mess. That's how it's supposed to be. But we were never taught that in the beginning. See, we were raised by the Disney World group, the Disney group. You know what I'm talking about? Snow White and the Seven Imps, all that. Y'all know the story. That is the name, right? Seven Imps. Dwarfs, imps, same things. Whatever. They're little demons. All of them. Listen, because it infected your brain. You believed that that's how it's supposed to be, and therefore, in essence, everything as it pertains to a relationship is supposed to be happily ever after. Newsflash: there is no such thing. There is no such thing. In fact, I can't even make you happy. Your happiness is your responsibility, and your responsibility alone. All right, let me pause right there because I done went on the tangent. Anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, I think everything that we're saying. I'm glad you did clarify the act versus feel, right? So I think act, from what I'm understanding you saying, is that it's one step that we're taking. We're not ignoring it, but we're taking a step toward it, like the bit that you mentioned. The standing in the same room, and maybe sipping on some coffee while you're cooking, or the mentioning the weather. Those small acts of trying to reconcile some behaviors that you notice are in your environment. So yeah, okay.
Let me add this one too, because I know we're getting close to time. Let me add this one to it, because there are things that we did in the beginning that we probably stopped doing. Fellas, we guilty of it, and I'm finna talk about you for a second. Whenever you walk past her, there was something that you used to do. I don't think I need to tell y'all what it is. You know what it is. Whenever you walk past her, there was something you used to do. You stopped doing that thing. That's information to her. You understand what I'm saying? There's a physical touch that you used to do. I don't think I need to tell y'all what I'm talking about. It's a physical touch you used to do. You stopped doing that. That was information to her. Once that information cycle processed, her brain started working like, why he no longer find me? He must be looking at somebody else now. That math equation comes together real quick. Real quick. You don't see me like this no more. You don't touch me no more. Why? He must be. It happens, right? It's a mathematical equation. So part of this is go back to doing the small act. I'll say again, go back to doing the small act. Go put your hands on it every now and then. It's okay. Whether you put your hand on her shoulder, whether you put your hand on the side of her arms, whatever. That matters. Right? I say again, that matters. And I think that's the thing that most of us miss. We miss the little individual little nitnoid things that we think are small. Oh, well, no big deal. I just didn't feel like, being bothered today. That's you. Okay. This takes me back to the emotions thing, because I think this is important to say as well. And then we'll get into our final thoughts real quick. If I feel a particular type of way, hear me when I say this, as they would say, listen with your ears, not your triggers. If I feel a particular type of way, that's my responsibility. I'm not saying that whatever happened over here didn't happen. This thing that happened is a fact. Okay? How I feel is my responsibility. If this happened to me, my responsibility. I have a responsibility to analyze how I feel. Once I analyze how I feel, then I get the information that I can acquire about how I feel. Yes, we are. I get the information that I can acquire about how I feel. I analyze that information and compare it to a particular doctrine that I subscribe to for my life. For me, it's the Bible. For you, it may not be. But whatever that is, I have to compare it to something, because if there's nothing to compare it to, the only thing I compare it to is myself. So I become the author of the right answer every time. I just create an environment to where you can't succeed. That's why I keep saying we cannot move off of pure emotions. When we move off of pure emotions, the other person is always wrong every time. You create the rules, you create the environment, they become the player, right, in your game. Always a recipe for disaster. So that said, listen, I greatly appreciate this conversation. Lisa, what you got for the people?
Man, I want to say, I appreciate the conversation as well, and everyone in the chat and your questions. I would say make sure you come back. We do this every fourth Saturday at the same time, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. And what I will say to anyone who's listening and who may have questions, um, as you heard, you may not have caught it, but Dr. Dwyer is a counselor for families, certified coach. He didn't just make it up. So you can verify that he is a counselor for married couples, and I think it's very important. A lot of things that we're learning in this community is that it's important for our family to be healthy, because beyond being in our family, we still have responsibility to make sure that we are adding good things to our community as well. And when you come into this community, we're coming together so that we're learning even as we're sharing. So I'm so thankful that that is available for us, and that we invite you in as well to share with us as we're having these conversations, because we're always learning and studying, and God is always teaching. I can say for me, for sure, even preparing for this show, I thought it was such a um, there was so much that I was learning as well. So what I would say to anyone, and that who is in a marriage and who may be having some difficulties, seek someone to speak to. um, there's nothing out here in this world, but if you are in a relationship and it may be drying, try to make sure that you are talking to that person and your spouse, and making sure that you guys come back to a place where it's healthy. It is possible. If it's possible, it is very possible. So don't give up. I would say continue, find someone to speak to, um, not someone who agrees with you, but someone to speak to who can help you, who's going to be honest with you, to have these conversations, because your covenant relationship is worth fighting for. And I'll just land there. Thank you so much for joining us on Reframing the Images of Relationship this month, and we look forward to seeing you next month at the same time.
I'm gonna keep mine short. I think it's not by happenstance that we are experiencing what we're experiencing in the world. The foundation, I say again, the foundation of everything, the foundation of our very existence is the family, right? The family is the foundation of the community. The community is the foundation of should be the foundation of the church. The community should also be a foundation of our city, county, so forth and so on. So, in essence, what we should be doing is building life inside out, just like your life changes on the inside before it changes on the outside. And until we get that part right, you're going to continue to see broken homes, broken marriages, and children suffering because of it. See, me and my ex wife, it is what it is, but my children suffer because of it. Now, I do believe that you can agree amicably to, you know, co parent in two different locations, but it becomes more difficult to do it that way. See, the girl child suffers when the father's not around. The girl child is not trained when the mother is not around. The boy child is not trained when the father is not around. And the boy child suffers when the father's not around. See, opposite sex nurture, same sex train. That's the thing that we have to understand. So if, and I'm not saying stay together because of kids, I'm saying create a healthy environment to grow kids. Healthy environments create healthy environments. We like to say hurt people all the time, but I also believe that heal people. And I think that becomes one of the most important things that we can digest and process as it pertains to relationships. So that's it. Listen, I greatly appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. Thank you for everybody who showed up today. Brand new people, welcome. You're always welcome to this place. This is not a place where we're looking to tear anybody down. We're only looking to build up brick by brick, conversation by conversation. So, on behalf of Lisa Keys and the Total Mindset, I mean, in the Mindset Academy, listen, you guys are awesome. Have a great rest of your day, and we will see you guys again next month on Reframing the Image of Relationship.